Hey everyone, Millie Bobby Brown's new film Damsel is out on Netflix, and there has been a flurry of love-hate reviews about the film. But here's the thing, it's as problematic as it is refreshing, and it's that dichotomy of good and bad that I haven't been able to stop thinking about with this film. So let's dig into what made this movie special and why it just didn't work. And if you like this review, please do give it a thumbs up and subscribe for more videos. You guys are awesome, and I'm really grateful. Thank you. So, Damsel. It's a traditional fantasy story in which a kingdom sacrifices an innocent virgin to a local dragon in exchange for its protection. In Damsel, Millie Bobby Brown plays Elodie, the princess who is courted by an envoy of a mysterious far-off kingdom that promises a spectacular payment in riches that will save her people from starvation over the coming winter. However, her fairy tale wedding puts her in the grip of a bloodthirsty dragon bent on revenge and payment for past wrongs, but Elodie decides that she likes being alive and fights for her life instead of just succumbing to the traditional damsel in distress role. So let's start with what worked in this film. And probably the strongest part of the film was Elodie's transition from victim to victor. We immediately get a sense of Elodie's strength, her intelligence, and her perseverance and kindness from the start. And all those traits held throughout the film, making her character growth legitimate and understandable. The human weakness for self-preservation and riches at the expense of others, even those we love, was also well portrayed, with both kings sacrificing their innocent daughters to ensure their own survival. The setup for why the dragon demands a price and the mystery that Elodie unravels was also nicely constructed. And that mystery addresses some of the age-old bargain with a dragon plots that we see in fantasy. But the twist that we get in how the price is paid generation after generation is clever. Finally, the solution that Elodie finds to save her life was great. I really like how her character subverted not just her own story as a damsel in distress, but she also subverted the dragon story of the cruel, bloodthirsty monster. I think that's what I like most about the film. It pays off your expectations with something that feels right, but isn't quite what you anticipated. And that's fairly refreshing in a film. While I did like Elodie and I thought Millie Bobby Brown did a really good job in the role, minus a few things that just aggravated me to no end, which I will get to in just a minute. The star of the film was the dragon, played by Shohreh Aghdashloo. The best thing about the time we live in today is that the technology is what allows us to do these on-screen marvels, these creations of mythical beings like fire-breathing dragons and make them look so fantastic. The CGI and art design on the dragon was terrific. She was fierce and beautiful on screen. And I think if this film had been released in theaters, the dragon just might have carried the show into a more positive reaction from the audience because she was fearsome. She was a spectacle of fangs and scales and fire. However, as great as the dragon was on screen, it was her voice that just nailed the character for me. Shohreh Aghdashloo's velvety voice has this burr in it that is equal parts soft and menacing at the same time. She did such a good job with the voiceover in this film. She has been one of my favorite actresses for years, and I had no idea she was in Damsel until I heard the dragons speak. And I was like, yes, That's the dragon we needed and wanted in this film. That was a total win for the movie. One last note on the high points. I really liked Angela Bassett in this film. I thought she did a great job with the wicked stepmother who turned out to be not so wicked after all. That was a great twist on the stepmother genre because it feels just so relevant to today's society with our blended families and our challenges that parents or step parents are increasingly facing. It felt like there was a really smart and natural tie to modern families. So, yeah, there's a lot of good in the film, but it still falls down. And here's why. I love girl power films. Yes, I do, but they have to be organic and they have to be natural. They have to be kind of well written. And there were some problems here where it just didn't connect, just didn't connect. However, I think Damsel was probably cast and produced at the height of the girl power hype. And that's when the kind of the bell curve started coming down on these types of films. And this basically meant that every male in the film was either weak, arrogant, selfish, sniveling, or powerless. And come on, it's a fantasy film. I understand what they're trying to do by subverting what we expect to have happen, but there's just no world. There's just no reality in which every male character falls into one of those stereotypes. And it just was the wrong move. There should have been something better for the male audience to grab onto in this film. The best male in the film was the prince because you could see him really responding to Elodie and perhaps even falling for her a little bit. He tries to stand up for Elodie's sister, but his mother just kind of sweeps him aside like he and his opinion didn't matter because, of course, they didn't. And he conformed to her, doing exactly as he was told. Elodie's father basically sells her to death. And, the first king in the film trades his daughters for his own life, as does every king and queen after that. And every man in the film is just greedy or stupid. They make bad decisions when faced with like very real decisions where strategy was needed or some kind of complex decision making was required. And I'm sorry, you don't create a strong female lead with a film full of weak males. That's not how you create a strong female because it erodes all of the girl power that Elodie generated for herself during her fight for survival. What kills me here is there were some simple solutions that the film could have implemented that would have solved the problem. And the fact that they didn't was just, it was lazy storytelling and it cheapens the film, the genre, and female heroines as a whole. The other thing that was just aggravating to me was the constant girl screaming from the very beginning. Some of the screaming, yeah, it was legit, but most of the time it was just Elodie making noise when she should have been very quiet or growling under her breath. But there was a point when I realized that Elodie was alone on screen a lot. So she really didn't have any moments for dialogue with other characters. So I think what they did was they filled that empty space with girl screams, girl sobs, and moans. She did do some talking to herself as she tried to like figure things out, and that was legit. But it would have been better to replace more of those screams with like angry growls or curses that she was going to kick some butt when she got out of the dragon's lair. Those things weren't there. So, for all the bad in the film, there's definitely enough good that I feel okay recommending it to you. It was a decent film that fell down in some places. There are some interesting parts of the story that I think people will really like. And I liked how they did some of these plot twists and subverting the old tropes. But I don't see that many guys are going to like this film, and that's half your audience. And the male perspective in the fantasy genre is very strong, and I think guys would have loved this film, frankly. I mean, Elodie was badass, and her character was very strong. But the fact that all of the males in the film were just not compelling in any way, that was just a huge disappointment. And I'm sure that that fed through to the audience reaction that we see out there, because otherwise it really does fit the bill for a solid family film for, the whole family, for date night, for parents, for kids. So, Damsel, what did you think? Did you like it? Did you hate it? Where are you on that spectrum of love hate with this film? I really want to hear your thoughts and what worked and what didn't work, because there's so much to talk about. And that's actually one of the most interesting things about this film, is that I think it's a good example of a film that can get us talking about what kinds of girl films or guy films or films work. So definitely drop a comment and let me know. All right, everybody, that's it for Damsel. If you like this review, please do give it a thumbs up and let me know. And be sure to subscribe for more videos, because I have more of my favorite films coming up. Until then, happy viewing, and I will see you all later. All right, bye.